What if I told you there was 4,999 people in between you and $5 million? Well, I'd tell you what I'd do. I'd fight for it.
Quick update. If you thought 5,000 peoples was the number, yeah, I was way off. It's actually only 2,000, and that number shrinks fairly quickly.
As it currently stands, there's 1,999 people between me and a shot at $5 million. It can't be that hard, right?
Well, let's pause for a second. What the fuck am I talking about? Well, let's make it very simple. The WPT has been kind enough to put on an absolute blinder. WPT Gold and their partners have put together $5 million to give away for absolute free. This changes the game. This is like the first time that I can remember in recent history where a poker company has done the right thing and given back to its users. So yeah, I'm happy to be in this tournament. A lot of people are in here as their first time, their first opportunity at really big money. And considering there's a life-changing sum of money up top, I'm bringing my A game today.
All right, so we made it to the first break. Not a lot to report. I think we're just under starting stack. Yeah, not really much. We went up, then we went down, then we went up. Now we got to make it back because everybody's playing.
Well, as we mentioned on that first break, to this point, not a lot to report. We've been up and down, and finally we have some hands with some videos to go over. My starting stack has dwindled. I have half of what we started with, being 30,000. I'm sitting at 16,000. I looked down at Queen 9 offsuit and I realized that I've got to start raising and playing some pots for me to win some chips. The blinds are 800, 800, 400, and considering how soft my table is, I decided to go ahead and raise a little bit on the loose side to 1800 after I looked down at Queen 9 offsuit. Not something I'd recommend, but something that I'm gonna have to do, as I mentioned. Only the big blind calls, and we're going to a flop that gives us 2 pair. When the opponent checks to me, I like checking back some random queens. It's always important to check back reasonable hands, and it seems like this is a good candidate since my kicker's not that great and I'm not going to get multiple streets of value in my opinion from a hand that's worse. So I go ahead and check it back, and the turn card now comes with 3 of hearts. My opponent checks it once again to me, and I put out nearly a minimum size bet. I make it 900. I realize that at this point my opponent probably has nothing. I'm trying to give him a good price to draw with maybe a naked gutter ball, but that doesn't come to fruition. My opponent pretty quickly folds, but that's huge for morale. After losing for about an hour and a half straight, we finally take on a pot to get us going in the right direction. As we mentioned in the last hand, not a lot has really panned out our way, and we're hoping that this next hand is a little different. I have 17,000 chips to start the hand, folds to me in the small blind, and I decide to limp. The big blind has about double my starting stack, and he decides to isolate to 2.4 thousand chips with 8-5 suited, although I don't love it, and I'm kind of putting in quite a few chips here, over 10% of my total stack. I do realize that at some point, I'm either going to have to get lucky or outplay my opponent post-flop. I decide to make the call, and the flop comes out about as good as I can hope for without making the nuts. I flop a pair as well as a gutterball straight draw and a backdoor flush draw. I check it over to my opponent, and he bets a little bit on the smaller side as he down bets to 2,000. That price, I'm definitely going to have to make the call, and we're off to a turn card that comes in 8 of clubs. Well, this is kind of scary. There's 4 to a straight out there, meaning any 6 now makes the straight, but we do have a really solid 2 pair. I think that my opponent is a good player, but I don't think he's going to ever be crazy or loose enough to be raising with the 6 in his hand. Outside of pocket 6s, there's not many hands that I think he betting that flop with that now improve, but once again, I've been wrong before, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has jack 10 as well. But when I check it over to him, he makes a massive bet for 5,000. Leaves me one decision and one decision only. I'm going to go with it. When you limp call a hand like this and make 2 pair, although it's a wet board, I'm going to have to go for gusto. I go all in for 13,000. He tanks for a long time before he folds. So obviously he had an overpair. We got lucky on the turn, and I'm happy with the way that hand turned out. There's nothing that can turn a session around like picking up pocket aces. I've now chipped up to nearly the starting stack of 30,000. The blinds are 1.2k, 1.2k, 600 small blind. Early position, which is a very prominent World Series of Poker circuit ring winner, raises to 2,500. I'm to his left, and considering I think he's a pretty solid player, I think it's a good idea to 3-bet here. Don't need to overthink, and I go 7,000 chips. Folds back to him. And I'm hoping that he takes my youthness as a form of stupidity and aggression, but nope, you don't win rings by being a goofball. He ends up folding the right fold clearly, but we're happy to take down yet another pot. That's 3 for 3 since we've come back from break. I'm feeling really good.
There's a lot to update you guys on. I just made it to the second break, which means we've played through 8 levels. We're sitting on 10,000 above the starting stack, so not good, not bad, but more than what we started with, which is nice. We're going to be coming back, not having a ton of blinds, but this is what's crazy. There was 2,000 seats given to this thing, and only 1,400 people showed up to claim them, which means every single person's seat that was worth $2,500, now, if you do the math, is worth over $3,500. There's a huge portion of the field that is now completely free, which really changes the dynamics. If there was an incentive to play well and to win, it's even bigger now. So gonna try to focus up, gonna try to bring the A game. Right now, it's just all about dodging the landmines and doing my best to stay mentally in it. Good luck, us.
Well, enough of that. Let's get back into the meat and potatoes of today's episode, and that's poker hands. Action folds to me in middle position, and I look down at a suit and ace. I go ahead and raise here to 3,500, sitting on about a 30,000 chip starting stack. The button thinks about it for a really long time before eventually deciding to make the call. It looks like he was very interested in a 3-bet, but decided against it. The big blind comes along as well. We're going to a flop where I end up with top pair. To be quite frank, I'm a little hesitant. When the action checks to me, although I have top pair, my kicker isn't that great, and I'm a little worried about what the button has. He clearly wanted a 3-bet pre-flop, and from what I've been able to gather, table intelligence-wise, he's clearly a recreational and at least new to live poker. Although this could be a clear flash in the pan, there's a good chance that he actually has a pretty strong hand and just didn't know if he was supposed to 3-bet or not, or maybe he just got a little scared and chickened out. Either way, I should bet the strength of my hand. I have some backdoor equity and I could just be good. It's hard to tell, but I make a c-bet for 5,000 chips and my opponent calls, the big blind folds. All of my worry goes completely out of the window when we turn 2 pair. All right, now I feel really good about my hand. With the action on me and about 20,000 in the pot already, I think the best option is fairly clear. Going all in puts my opponent at maximum pressure and would make him have to call off all of his aces. I don't think that this opponent is good enough to fold top pair, and if that's the case, there's no reason for me to dwindle around doing anything stupid. Very simple to me. If I have a good hand and I think my opponent has a good enough hand to call, let's just go for maximum. I go all in for 19,500 chips. My opponent does not like it at all. He actually thinks about it for quite some time before eventually mustering up the call. We show our hand and it's going to be good here a lot of the time, which it is when he shows ace queen. Need to fade a queen or a 10 on the river, and the river is a brick. We double up, getting 60,000 chips, a massive pot swing in my way, and this is going to change the entire direction of our session. Well, coming off the back of that massive high, we've now pretty much guaranteed ourselves at a really decent shot at cashing. I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch, or whatever they say, but in this next hand, middle position, which is one of the bigger stacks, raises up here to 4,500. I'm sitting on 60,000 starting chips. The blind's 2k, 1k. The small blind calls, and then with queen 6 of diamonds, we have a pretty easy call to flick in here as well. Off to a flop where I make bottom pair and a couple of backdoor draws. My opponent c-bets for 5,000, and when the small blind folds, I decide to call here. I don't know if I love or hate this play, but it feels like sometimes you got to defend. I guess it's pretty arguable, debatable, I should say, considering there's an ace out there, but either way, it's a decision I make, so I'm going to have to live with it. Turn card's a 9 of diamonds. That got pretty interesting pretty quickly. We now pick up a backdoor flush draw to go along with our bottom pair. When I check it over to my opponent, I consider that maybe there's a version of this story where I end up going all in as a check raise bluff, or maybe I call, but it's not going to really give any options for us to do that, such a thing, when he checks it back. River card now comes a 7 of hearts. I check it over to my opponent, and after a bit of pondering, he decides to bet a massive 20,000 chips. Just as quickly as the chips came to me, it seems like they're trying to run away from me now. I don't know what my opponent has, and I don't know what the hell he's trying to represent. I feel like a hand like pocket aces or any of the sets that now turn into boats would have definitely bet the turn as it got pretty wet. So it doesn't make much sense to me for him to check the turn and now bomb the river. I don't know what my opponent can have. Maybe he's getting super frisky with a ace king or ace queen holding and trying to get absolute maximum value. But then again, that 7 is going to be something that I'm going to have here quite a bit. When I check the turn and I call the flop, these kind of things add up to me having a 7 in my hand. So I just doubt that he's doing this with one pair. If that's the case, he's kind of only representing like a really random trip 7s or a boat. I block the bottom boat. I clearly don't block the top boat. But I decide to put on my hero cap. I just think that, you know what, my hand's decent enough to call here sometimes, and maybe he's turning a random king queen into a bluff, or I'm not sure. The hand doesn't make sense to me, so I'm going to call because that's just who I am. My opponent has king 7 of diamonds, so we lost the absolute maximum. We could have lost significantly more if a diamond came though. But all that being said, really disappointed in the outcome of the hand, but I'm actually interested to see what you guys think on it. I mean, clearly I lost the hand, and maybe people aren't bluffing in tournaments like this, but I don't know. It's a really interesting situation, and I'm sure that the chat pros will let me know what to do next time. At this point, we're getting really close to the money. The only trouble is my stack has dwindled, and after that massive mistake we made in the last hand, there's not many big blinds left around for me to have. I have just shy of 8 big blinds in this next hand, and I look down at King 10 offsuit. We're 15 people off the money, but I'm a little worried that this bubble might not go as quickly as I think, and for that reason, 7 big blinds is only 3 orbit, considering you give up 2 big blinds every big blind, and then you give up half a big blind, so 0.5 a big blind and a small blind, things are going to get pretty crazy pretty quickly. Even worse than that, the blinds are going to be going up in a matter of 10 minutes. I don't know if this is the right play to do, but I realize that at some point, I'm going to have to steal one. When the action folds to me, I decide to go for gusto. I go all in with a pretty crummy hand, King 10 offsuit, hoping to get everyone to fold, or worst case scenario, get called by like pocket 6s or something. Luckily for me, it won't come down to it. Everyone ends up folding, and that's bought me at least one more orbit and one more opportunity at 9 more hands to give myself a chance to min cash.
Okay, so I was unbelievably misinformed or just not educated on everything that's happening. So, just found out. We are currently, I think, 20 people from the money bubble. I have like no chips. I think I have 25K exactly. I'm going into the small blind, but the blinds will be going to 2K, 4K. So we have no chips. The problem I just found out though is I gotta make the money. Even though the min cash is only 1K, there is a chance that I could, when you bust, you get a 20% chance at pulling a 10K main event seat. So I don't think I've ever really put a lot of vibes into thought. I guess I haven't put much thought into ICM, but this is serious. So we're on like a impromptu break to bring some other players into the ballroom. We need to cash, guys. Let's spin it up, or just let's get some good fortune.
Hold on, there may be a chance here for you. All right, the all-in hands are, the shortest stack has?
Jack 4, motherfucker!
Jack 4. Ace, ace. And he has him covered. And he's up against ace 10. So the Jack 4 at risk, and the aces are at risk against ace 10. So all we need here is a king, queen, and jack for a straight.
We're jacking a 4, asshole!
Here comes the flop. It's 3 clubs. None of these players have a club in their hand. It is 8, 7, 6. The ace 10 has a straight draw, would make a straight with a 9.
The Jack 4 is a straight draw with a 5.
Straight draw with a 5 over here for the Jack 4.
Running clubs? What?
None of these players have a club in their hand. 5. We'll go to the turn card. It's a 3.
Rig.
One card to come. We could lose our player on the bubble. Here we go. It's a 3 of clubs. So the aces hold up. We are down to 503. You're in the money.
Well, the job is not finished. As Kobe Bryant once said, what is there to be happy about? Job done, job is not done. Although it seems like quite the optimistic approach to think that I can win this tournament with a matter of 2 big blinds or whatever it is that I have. I pick up pocket Kirons, baby. Pocket Cowboys, pocket Kings. Early position raises to 9,000 chips. I go all in for 13,000 from the button, and only he calls. Oh no, not an ace. He shows ace 4 of spades. Very scary. Never want to see an overcard, but I'll take my chances as a over 60% favorite to win the hand. The flop comes out, and immediately my freaking heart is in the pit of my stomach. I see an ace on the window. Just like that, although we found a way to min cash, just really believed that we had much more than this. The turn card comes a 10 of spades, so I guess we pick up a few more outs, but not really much has changed, and almost for the worst now is he picks up a flush draw. A fan of the blog and one of the wonderful gentlemen that I've come across with to my right reassures me and says that a queen is coming. there's a chance that it comes. And by a miracle that almost no words can describe, a queen falls on the river and we ship a massive pot. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Oh, we were standing up, we were getting our backpack on, but the poker god said, sit your ass down. We have a tournament to win. Just a few hands later, I've barely got my wits about me, and although I feel like I'm on top of the world, I actually still don't have that many chips. I think I'm sitting on just around 10 big blinds. So when the action falls to me, I look down at king 7 of spades. Yeah, I guess I can just fold here sometimes, but I can't think like that. I have a tournament to win. I have some blinds to steal. I decide to go all in here from late position. I'm trying to steal the pot, and at the end of the day, there's 10,000 chips, meaning I'd almost increase my stack by nearly 30% by just taking it down, and everyone folds just like that. 25% of my chip stack has been pulled right in. I'm now sitting on 50,000 chips.
By a miracle that only the poker gods could explain, we have 55,000 chips after being down to 10,000 just a matter of minutes ago. Got a huge double up where we sucked out, or resucked, I guess, technically, on the river there, so that's kind of exciting. Then we jammed with king 7, get the fold, and we ended up getting a small all-in win with the pocket 10s there, so I'm down to keep it spinning if you guys are.
After folding several hands and coming back after break, we're now sitting on 39,000 chips. The big blind is 5,000, the small blind is 3,000, and the big blind ante is a massive 5,000 as well. So every orbit, I've been losing 13,000 chips at the minimum. Blinds are going up, and when I look down at king queen offsuit, I realize that this is my moment to pounce. I've got to win chips, and at some point I will just literally have to double up. I'm gonna have to win a flip, gonna have to win a raise. Something's gonna happen where everything has to break my way. It's gonna have to happen more than once to be fair, but this is the start. I decide to go all in with king queen offsuit. Not a great hand, but definitely a really good one, and if we get called, we're not gonna be crying about it. Action folds to the big blind, who, spoiler alert, who has a massive amount of chips in front of him. As he decides to think it over, I realize that he's either got a really bad ace high holding, or maybe he has a really small pair, or even a hand that I can dominate with 2 jacks suited. So after all that thinking, he decides to flick in the call. I'm not too worried about it, but when he shows an ace followed by a random rag, I'm a little disappointed as we didn't get that hand to fold, but I understand he definitely had to make that call. We're going to be going to a run out with my entire tournament life at risk. If I win this pot, we make nearly 100,000 chips in our stack, and if we lose this pot, things can take a massive turn and we'll be absolutely soul crushed and busted from the tournament. Everything comes down to this moment, everything we've lived for. It doesn't matter if we don't win this hand. The flop nearly has us drawing the head ace and 9 with 2 spades. We're going to need some backdoor help by virtue of a spade, or we're going to need to see a jack fall, which would give us the nut straight. The turn card is another 10. My heart is really pounding. I could feel it in my chest. It's crazy to consider. Just a few hours ago, I was driving from California to play in this tournament that I didn't realize would mean so much to me. I've never wanted to win more in my life. This pot really means more than just money and maybe a min cash that might help me out a little bit, but it means a lot. I want to be a champion. I want to say that I took down a massive multi-table tournament field. I want to be able to call myself a WPT champion, and I'm gonna need a jack and a jack only to save that hope. The river card is paint, but it's the queen of clubs. My heart is broken. I don't know how to feel about it, but as always, I try to be a gentleman when I'm dispatched from a table. I bid my farewell, I shake some hands, and I go to the payout line. I'm heartbroken. 324th place for $1.4 thousand, but there's still a little bit of hope. Remember what I said earlier? We get to pull out of that massive bounty box. Maybe I can get a main event seat.
I'm winning this slip, yo.
Ready? All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
Good luck. Thank you.
Sending you all the good vibes. All right.
Okay. Use this, you'll lose it. Okay.
Got it? Got the lucky one?
Which side does it show?
When you open it up, it'll be the opposite side. So, yeah.
So the slip's on this side or the other side?
It's on that side. It's on your side. It's on your side.
Okay, I'll know right now. What if I rip the ticket?
That's okay. It's still redeemable.